Hey, what's going on everyone? My name is Gaurav and this is Neat Designs. So today we are going to learn how to create this beautiful looking login form which we see often on the Google's website. So without any further ado, let's begin. Okay, so in my editor I have this file open called markup.html which contains all the meta tags, the title and link to our CSS file. Okay. So here we have a div with the class of container, and inside that container we have this header element, and inside that header element we have h1 element which says sign in, and after the header we have this form element, and inside that form we have two divs, one for username and one for password, and in those divs we have input with the type of text, and we have this required attribute, and after that input we have this label for username, and after that we have this div with a class of line. Okay, and same with the password, we have this input with the type of password, and after that we have this label and again the same line. Okay, and after the password div we have this div with a class of button which says submit, and this is the end of our container, and after that we have this script tag. So let me explain what we are doing here. So first of all I am creating a variable called button, and I am selecting that button with the class button. Okay, so this thing, and then I am adding a event listener on that button which is a click event listener. So when someone clicks on that button we are going to reload the whole page. Okay, so that's it for the markup. Let's check out this code in our browser. So this is how it looks now without our styles. So let's style it with our CSS file. I have already linked my CSS file. So first of all let's remove all the default margin and padding. Okay, let me resize it properly. Okay, and then let's move on to body, and let's change the color of it to, let's say, CCC. So we can give our container background of white. Okay, so background of, let's say, white, and let's give it a dimension of 350 by 500. So width 350, height 500 pixels. Okay, looks good, and let's give it a margin of 30 on top and bottom, and auto on each side, so it will be horizontally center in the body. And let's change the font family to Helvetica New, and Arial as our fallback font. Okay, now let's move on to the header. So first of all let's say header is going to have 50 pixels of padding on top and bottom, 0 on each side, and let's say background of light blue, and text align of center, and in the container let's set the color to 111 by default. Okay, so now let's see, and also let's give it a margin of in fact margin bottom of 30 pixels, so we will have some space after our header. So now let's see, we have these main divs username and password in our form elements, so let's target them both. So username comma password, and let's say margin of 45 pixel on top and bottom and 0 on each side. Okay, looks good. So now let's style that input. Okay, so input, so we don't want any outlines, so let's set the outline to none. We don't need all the borders, we need only the border bottom. So first of all, let's say border none and border bottom of 1 pixel solid, hash CCC. Okay, and now let's style that label. So we are going to position the label absolutely, so here we can set position relative, so we can position that label absolutely according to these divs username and password. So let's say position absolute, top 0 left 0. Okay, and let's set the width of these divs to 80%, and let's say margin auto on each side, so it will be horizontally centered. And now let's see our button, so it has a class of button, so let's say button width 60 pixels, and let's save it, and let's give it a margin of 60 pixels on top and bottom, auto on each side, so it will be centered as well. Let's give it a background of, let's say, light blue. Okay, and padding, let's move it to the top 8. In fact, let's say yes, 8 pixels on top and bottom, 12 on each side. Okay, looks good. Let's give it a border radius of let's say 5 pixels. 5 pixels is too much. How about 2 pixels? Okay, 2 pixel is looking good. And text align center. Okay, and font weight should be 700. 700 looks so okay. 500 is looking good. So now I don't want to see this background color of blue when the user select this text. So let's remove that by using the pseudo element called selection, and let's say background transparent. Okay, so we are not going to see, hopefully, if I'm doing it right, selection. Okay, so now we are not going to see that blue selection color. Okay, so now let's change the display type of input elements to block, and let's change their width to 100%, so it will take the full width of its parent. So now we have these labels, and if we click here we can see the cursor is appearing here, but if we click on the labels we are not going to see that cursor, okay, because we are clicking on the label. So let's remove the pointer events on that labels. So pointer events none. So now even if we click on that label we are going to see that cursor, okay, and we can type right through it, okay. So now what else do we need? So let's add activity here or functionality. Caps lock is on, okay. Functionality. So what we need to do here is, if user focuses on this input field, we are going to control this labels, okay. So let's say input focus and input I think valid, okay. Before doing that we also need to style that line element which is here present over here after the label, but right now we can't see it because we haven't styled it yet. So let's see line and let's position it absolutely, width 100%. Let's give it a height of 1 pixels and let's give it a background of let's see, we need some darker color. So let's use the Chrome Dev tools. So we have this light blue color, but instead of selecting that, let's select a darker color. Okay, this looks good, and let's save it here. So now we can see that line right on top of our input element. So let's add some transition. Transform, let's say 300 ms ease in out. So input focus and input valid, we can say this symbol it is called tilde, and then we can target our line, and here also line. So valid means if you type something here, that is going to be valid state, okay. If you just click on the input field, it is going to be in focus state, but if you type something here, it is going to be in valid state, okay. So let's say, so by default we are going to disappear that line, and when the user clicks on the input field to type their username and password, we are going to disappear the border bottom of the input field, which is here, and we are going to show them on this blue line, okay. So by default, let's say scale, I'm going to use scale function. So transform scale and 0. So now that disappears, and when the user focuses on the input field, we are going to say transform scale 1. Okay, and let's add the functionality to input itself. So input focus and input valid, we are going to say border bottom to none. Okay, because we have set the border bottom on input field to 1 pixel solid CCC. So now when the user focuses on that input field, we are going to disappear that border bottom. Okay, so let's see. So now you can see the animation here. Okay, okay, the button needs to be have. So right now you can see the button don't have the cursor pointer, so we are not getting that fingers icon when we hover on that button. So let's fix that, cursor to pointer. So now you can see the arrow changes to that finger icon when we hover on it. And also we are going to set the active. When the button is going to be the active, we are going to change the background of it to that dark blue color. It's not dark blue, little darker than the light blue, and the color to white. So now you can see this animation, but let's add that same transition which we have. I think I have that. No, I don't have that line on my clipboard. So let's see. Okay, little smoother. So now let's style these labels. So let's copy this thing and we are going to target the label. So let's check that out. Let's set it to display none. So it's working, but we are not going to set it to display none. In fact, we are going to change its transform property. We are going to use the transform property, and we are going to say translate y negative, let's say 10 pixels, let's say 20 pixels. Okay, and let's say font size to 12 pixel here, and let's set the font size to 15 pixels initially. So now we have a little smaller font initially. Let's change the color to AAA, so it will be little muted color, and let's change the color of it to this little darker blue color. Oh, input font is very small, so let's change that to 16 pixels. So obviously it don't have any functionality. It is just a front end part of the login form. So we have added the transition to this button, that line, but we haven't added any transition on the label and the input field itself. So we can see, it's not smooth. If we see carefully, that border bottom is not going smoothly. Okay, so let's fix that. So let's copy this transition line and let's paste it here, but let's say all instead of transform. And now let's see. Oh goodness, let's reduce that labels transition duration to 150 milliseconds, so it will be little faster. Okay, okay, so that's it for today, guys. Hope you have enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed it. So if you really liked this video, please click that like button. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and hope you have learned something from it. And that's it, guys. See you next time. Okay, bye.